Hey, friend, have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, your body just is not responding and you are not losing weight the way you want to? Like you're doing everything right and still it's not working.
We're obsessed with dieting and not eating, and it's an impossible standard to live up to.
Yeah.
It's no wonder people are so frustrated.
Welcome back to the Sunshine Café, where we pour positive back into the world and elevate how you lead life with encouraging and faith aligned conversations. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe. I'm Lisa Roars, your host, and I'm excited today to touch on a topic that hits all of us because we all eat. We all have to eat. And sometimes food and all the noise about food, about what you should eat and shouldn't eat, really gets to be heavy and weighs down on us. And I have a beautiful guest with us today who's going to talk with us a little bit about something you may or may not be familiar with called intuitive eating. So, welcome to the show, Katy Harvey. Thank you for coming and being on the program today.
I am so honored and delighted to be here. I can't wait to dig into all of the things.
Awesome. Well, let's just start with a definition because intuitive eating isn't necessarily something that a lot of people know about. So, let's talk about what that is.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think sometimes even when people hear it and they think, "Oh, I know what that means." Like they sort of assume what it means. It can be a little off base. So, what's important to know about this concept called intuitive eating is that it originated from a book that was written by two registered dietitians. And it is an evidence-based framework. There's over 200 research studies behind it, and there are 10 principles within it. So a lot of times people think, oh, intuitive eating must just mean listen to your body, or it means eat whatever you want, whenever you want, or eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. And those are very loose interpretations of it. Um, Two of the 10 principles are honoring your hunger and honoring your fullness, but that's 20% of it. And also contained within this approach is our relationship with food and with our body. So, the first principle to start with is ditching the diet mentality and stepping away from all of these rules and judgments and tracking and calories and points and macros and coming back internally to your body and letting go of this idea that there's foods that are off limits or things that are just inherently bad for you that you can't eat. Because what that ironically does is actually makes us compulsively want to eat those foods more.
Yeah, it's like the parent who says, don't go into that particular place. And then where does the kid want to go? Right where you tell them not to go.
Exactly. It's like when you tell yourself, don't eat the cookie, now all of a sudden all you want is cookies and you want a lot of them, right? And the other place I see people kind of misunderstanding this is when they think, okay, I should just eat whatever I want whenever I want. I should just let myself do that. And yes, you have permission to do that, but that very easily becomes impulsive eating, which is different than intuitive eating. We don't just want to eat something because it pops into our head or because it's available or because we can, because that doesn't mean that you're listening to your body. We need to slow down and check in with our bodies.
That is such good advice. Love that. Let's pause there for a second because that's a great introduction to what this whole topic is. Tell us a little bit about who's Katy Harvey and how you got into this topic in the first place and why it's such a passionate topic for you.
Sure, yeah, I sort of accidentally found it. It kind of dovetailed with my own relationship with food. I think actually my training to become a dietitian, I studied dietetics in college, and I think that kind of fueled for me this idea of good food and bad food and what is healthy and what is not healthy. And I took that to a very perfectionistic place.
Yeah.
And it was the very last semester of my senior year in college that one of our professors had us read the book Intuitive Eating. And it was like my brain exploded. Like, whoa, okay, oh my gosh, everything in here resonates so deeply with me. And so I was kind of personally starting to wrestle with all of this and to make peace with food and with my own body. And then I went off to grad school and I eventually started in my first job as a dietitian. And I was working in a breast cancer research and prevention clinic. And we were doing these research studies with breast cancer survivors. And the idea behind it was that we thought that weight gain after treatment, which is very common for women who have breast cancer, they tend to gain weight after treatment. There's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of them are hormonal, and that the weight gain theoretically increases their risk of cancer recurrence. So we thought, let's put them on a diet and help them lose weight. So here I am kind of wrestling with this idea that like diets don't work, and I'm putting people on diets. And what I saw play out in front of me was the same diet cycle that most people experience. You lose weight initially, you feel really good about it. You're so proud of yourself, you feel good, you're excited, but eventually you can't stick with it anymore. And when you stop doing the diet, the weight comes back on. And a lot of times it's plus some. And so we watched this happen to these women in these studies. And what was truly disturbing to me, quite frankly, is we were also tracking their body composition, their muscle mass, and their body fat as part of the research. And what would happen when they were losing weight was they would lose muscle mass and some body fat. And then when they would regain the weight after they came off of our program, they would regain it almost all as body fat. And this is not a judgment against fatness, because that's a whole other thing, is like fat phobia in our society is extremely problematic. But if we just look at this from like a, maintaining your muscle mass for strength and insulin sensitivity and these positive things that muscle does for us, we had essentially messed up their body composition. They were basically worse off after we were done with them than before we started. And I was like, this is bonkers. I can't keep doing this
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
And the more I got into the literature on intuitive eating and mindful eating and our relationship with food, I was just so deeply drawn to that I was kind of full steam ahead in that direction.
That is fantastic. Yeah. I think people lose sight of the fact that it's not about vanity, about what we look like as far as how beautiful we are, what size we are. It's more about what fat's doing to our internal organs and what fat is doing to our health markers and those kinds of things. And like you said, the balance between muscle mass and fat and how important that is to support our structure. So when we get older and older, we're not falling down because our hips are weak and we're not falling down because our bones are weak. Those muscles really help support our whole infrastructure. So I can see how that would be a really hard thing for you to have these two things going on in your mind that are not congruent as you are treating your patients.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And once I got more into the space where I'm studying more on the psychology of our relationship with food and with body image, and where that led me was into the field of eating disorders, because eating disorders are sort of the most extreme disruption in our relationship with food and our body, but I see it on a continuum.
Mm,
And sure, we've got people diagnosed with eating disorders, but frankly, the norm in our society is that most people are walking around with some degree of disordered eating going on and some degree of dislike or even flat out hatred towards their bodies. And
yeah.
so it's just such a pervasive issue.
Mhm.
And that's what I hope to make any impact that I can during my time on this earth, to positively help people to feel less tormented by these things.
Yeah. Well, food is obviously, it's just so front and center. And if you have any kind of addiction or any kind of a disorder related to food, it's not like a smoking or a drug addiction or something like that where you can just completely eliminate it from your life.
Right. You can't just
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can abstain from eating for a while. Fasting is very valuable for various reasons, but you can't like not eat for the rest of your life. So really that is a battle that we all have to conquer and come to peace with how am I going to use food to fuel my body well and to be at peace. I love that you said that word peace, to be at peace with this whole process. So I'm not constantly fighting and not constantly ruminating on it. It's a huge piece of it. What do you think are some of the biggest reasons people have a struggle with trusting themselves about food?
I think it goes all the way back to childhood for most people. So, I mean, you think about it, like babies are born and they cry, and when they're hungry, you feed them and then they're happy and they go to sleep, and the cycle repeats itself. And even small children, like toddlers, they will eat if they are hungry, and if they are not hungry, they're not gonna eat what you put in front of them no matter how hard you try to make them, and they've got this innate trust with their body, and it's these little things that well-intending adults in our lives do that start to disrupt that trust and that connection. Being told you have to take a bite of everything on your plate, being told you have to finish your vegetables before you can have dessert, being told you can't possibly be hungry yet, we just ate an hour ago, being given constant snacks as a bribe or a distraction. Like there's these ways that we end up using food and we override our hunger or we disregard our fullness or even the clean your plate club. I was just talking with a client yesterday about this. She's I think in her 50s and is still having to work through that kind of default setting within her to clean her plate because she's realizing I don't have to do that anymore. You know,
Mm.
my parents aren't sitting there at the table forcing me to clean my plate before I can get up. I get to listen to my body and I can save the rest of my food for later. I can throw it away. That doesn't make me a bad person. But it's like if we peel back enough layers with most individuals that I work with, we can trace the origins of this distrust to childhood. And then, you know, as you get older and you start to get more of the messages about controlling your weight and good food and bad food and all of this, that starts to be more of the diet culture component of it, where we're taught that your appetite can't be trusted or that these certain foods are just inherently bad and wrong. And so, you know, we're doing things like trying to suppress our hunger with diet soda or a bunch of coffee and we're we're trying to go against our biology,
Mhm.
essentially. And it's like you do enough of that, and you get at a certain point just very lost and confused, like, what does normal eating even look like? A lot of people come to me and they're like, I sort of get the gist of what healthy eating would be, but at the same time, I don't know how to eat. Like, I am so lost. Help me.
Yeah, because like, there's just so much food noise going on out there. Just,
And it's like, you couldn't possibly follow all of the rules and expectations we've heard because there would be like no foods left that are acceptable, you know?
Right, right.
And so, like, what do you believe? What do you not believe? What you know, what is helpful? What's not helpful? And part of it is that what's helpful for one person might not be for another because we have different needs and biology and life circumstances and medical stuff and all of that.
So true, right. It is very personal. Food
Yeah.
is very personal. Some people can eat certain things, and some people want to eat certain things. You put enough spice in my food, I'm not gonna eat it at all, but a next person would love all that spice. So really, it's up to personal preference in a lot of respects. I love that you mentioned about what we teach our children about food and how that pattern of food, almost emotional eating starts when we're children. When we're having a temper tantrum, wherever it might be, and we're little ones, and our parents give us a snack to just put that in our mouth to shut us up. Or we're angry because we don't want to get in the car seat. And instead of talking through that and working through that as a parent, we stuff goldfish in their face whatever it might be. It's like it's teaching our children to compensate for anger or sadness or fear or frustration with food. So we're teaching that at such a young age.
This feeling is bad. We need to make it go away. Here's some food to, you know,
Right.
distract you from it or help stop it.
Exactly.
I am just as guilty of this as anybody else. I catch myself all the time having the impulse to do that. Oh, you don't want to go run errands with me? What if I give you a sucker while we're going?
Right. So
Or, you know,
true.
like, oh, you're having a bad day. Let's go get some ice cream. Like, I have those thoughts. And sometimes I do it because it's not all bad or wrong. But we also need to have other ways of helping our kids learn to deal with their emotions.
Yeah. And we do it, I was gonna say also on the flip side with the celebrations. It's like, oh, it's your birthday. You can have anything you want to eat. You accomplished something at school. Great. Let's go get this big sweet treat. And I do that too. I'm with you. It's like I'm not immune from it as well, but it is something to be mindful of that we're teaching that next generation to eat emotionally when we either compensate for anger and frustration with food or we reward great behavior with food.
Oh, you're so spot on. And I think what you're getting at is the way that we have kind of conditioned ourselves to like use food as this all purpose tool. It's beautiful that we can celebrate with food. Like we shouldn't stop doing that. You know, it's food is a part of tradition and holidays and special moments. But can we also think about other ways to celebrate and honor these things and diversify a little bit so that food is not just our end all be all for everything? Because that is a theme that I hear a lot from people is food is just on their mind all the time. And part of it is because it's in our face all the time. I mean, we have entire television networks dedicated to food. We are
Right.
simultaneously, as a society, obsessed with food itself and in very extreme forms of food, you know? But then at the same time, we're obsessed with dieting and like not eating and subsisting on air. And it's an impossible standard to live up to. It's no wonder people are so frustrated.
Exactly. Well, and we know just from looking at how companies, food companies, are designed that they specifically have areas of their business that are focused on making the food more addictive. There are chemicals and combinations of salt and oil and sweets that go into the food that make it more insatiable. So we want more and
Yeah, they
more of
want
it.
it, and yeah, it's like if we think about, okay, like their job is to make a product that consumers give the highest ratings to for taste because then people will want to eat it, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, I'm always careful about the fear mongering that we don't want to make it so that that means you can't trust yourself with Doritos or Oreos or something. It means that we need to have those foods alongside other foods that give us satiety. We need to be also eating things that have protein and fiber. And I'm all about like, as long as you're not straight up allergic to a food, all foods can fit into a well balanced diet. And there's a way to do that without harming yourself because walking around afraid of food and giving it these scary labels, it messes with us and it creates more of that compulsion towards those foods and the guilt if you eat them because you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done to my body?
Right. So true. And your point about getting to those events and those celebrations and not having it just be all about the food, but enjoy the fellowship, enjoy the friends and the family, and keeping our focus not just on what's on that table or that buffet that I get to eat, but what about that beautiful conversation and really focusing on the people?
Yeah. I know how many of us have been there where you're sitting at an event, like you're at a wedding reception and you're like eyeing the cake in the corner and you're like, am I going to let myself eat it or am I not? How many calories does that have? That's so much sugar. Maybe I could work out tomorrow. And you're physically there, but you're not all the way present. And it that type of thinking and obsessing about food can steal so much from us.
It does. It does steal our presence. The word is so appropriate there because you are physically there and mentally completely gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, intuitive eating is actually a relatively new thing for me. So I appreciate you introducing the topic to even me on this interview. Tell me a little bit about the 10 principles to intuitive eating. And let's say there's somebody out there listening today who is not sure even how they would start. Maybe they're really not trusting themselves. Could it you may not have time to go through all 10, but can you kind of summarize where someone could start?
Oh, for sure. Because what I would not tell somebody to do is, okay, embrace intuitive eating, go all in and just start listening to your body and eating what you want. Like we were saying before, like that can go awry in many ways. And the reality is that for a lot of us, we wouldn't even know how to do that. Like we're so disconnected that it's hard to know, am I actually hungry or do I just want to eat because I'm feeling a certain way? Or am I hungry or is that sensation that I'm feeling in my body an emotion? You know, and we don't trust ourselves to eat certain things or to know what's the quote unquote right amount of food or nutrients. So usually where I will start with people is to help us kind of create stepping stones to get to where you have that trust and that connection and that certainty with your body. And I recommend starting off with an eating schedule. And this is very counterintuitive because they're like, wait a minute, I thought you were supposed to listen to your body. This is going to help you listen to your body because our appetite signals, our appetite hormones, our digestive system, it's all tied to our circadian rhythm and our biological clock. And so, just like your body prefers to go to bed and wake up at the same times each day, we don't always do that, but it is what's best for us. Your body would prefer to eat around the same times each day. And if you've ever been on a consistent schedule because of like work or school or whatever, you kind of know when it's lunchtime. Like your body is like, yeah, we're getting hungry. So we essentially want to do that. And I recommend eating breakfast within about an hour of waking up. Like, let's get some fuel in your system and get it going. And from there, don't go any longer than about 3 or 4 hours without food. So if you can kind of think about your day and your daily schedule to think about, okay, what time do I wake up? What time would my breakfast be? Where does lunch fit in? What time do we tend to have dinner? And then plug in some snacks in between so that your gaps in between meals are filled in with a snack. And that way you're not going to end up ravenously hungry at any point. There's a great tool that I use with clients that you'll see a lot in the intuitive eating space. It's called the Hunger and Fullness Scale. And it's kind of like a ruler, if you can picture it, and it's from 0 to 10. And 10 is the most full and stuffed you could be.
Mm.
0 is the most hungry you could be. And then 5 is kind of that nothingness in between. So it's a nice visual way of connecting with the nuances of your hunger and fullness. Because it's not a light switch where it's like, oh, I'm hungry, and then I turn it off and I'm full. It's like you're mildly hungry, you're moderately hungry, you're ravenously hungry.
Mm.
And the signals that you're getting from your body are going to change as your hunger gets more intense. Same thing with fullness. So I like to use that eating schedule in conjunction with the hunger fullness scale to help people get into a rhythm and get connected. And from there, they're going to start to realize, oh, okay, I can read and understand what my body is telling me.
The schedule is so important because I think we do a lot of mindless eating.
Mhm.
Like, I'm nervous, I'm busy, I just want to grab something. And somebody had told me once a great way to discern, are you really hungry or are you just emotionally eating? If you have that feeling and you say, would I go eat broccoli right now? No, I don't really want broccoli. Okay, well, I'm not probably super hungry then. And you can replace broccoli with carrots or something else that you actually like from a vegetable perspective. But if you can kind of go to the things that aren't typically the ones you have a hard time stopping eating, that'll tell you if you're a
I
little.
call those foods that we have a hard time stopping with, I call those foods charmed. It's like
Mm.
metaphorically they have sprinkles on them, or they
Yes.
might literally have sprinkles.
Yeah.
And it's those foods that, like, they kinda call to you and you wanna eat it even if you're not hungry or if you're
Hmm.
still full. And what I do with my clients is a process called de-charming, which is where we work to neutralize that food, where you can eat that food and you can coexist with that food, and you could even have some of that food in your house and forget that it was there because we've desensitized you to it and we've removed the judgment about it. And people are like, "Yeah, right, Katie. Yeah, right. That's never gonna happen for me, not with the chocolate, not with the ice cream, not with the Oreos, but I swear to you, it works." And it's one of the most freeing things to realize that you don't have to be afraid of those types of foods and that you can learn to know when is it that your body does truly want that versus it's more of a taste hunger or a craving or an emotional thing.
Freedom, you mentioned freedom is
Yes.
so critical. When you can get to the point where you are controlling the food and the food is not controlling you, that is a liberating place to be.
Oh my gosh, so well said. Yeah, that you don't have to control it and it doesn't have to control you. Like, it can just be food. Like, food gets put back in its proper place in life because it's important, no doubt about it. We have to have it to survive. And again, it's a beautiful thing that we enjoy and get pleasure from and connect over, but it means to not take up disproportionate space in our life.
Yeah, very true. Sometimes I joke with myself to say, "Come on, Lisa, you have to be a better parent to yourself."
Yeah,
You
you
just
know
gotta.
how, like, we kinda give our kids a bit of structure with food, and we ask them to, like, "Please sit down while you're eating that." I don't know about my kids, they all wanna, like, be twirling in circles while they're eating. I'm like, "Sit."
Yes. Yeah.
And no, we're not just gonna, like, raid the pantry at all hours of the day. We're gonna have a little bit of structure, and within that structure, we're gonna listen to our bodies. Like, we
Yeah.
are gonna slow down and pay more attention while we're eating.
Yes, and the beautiful thing about that when we're all sitting down on our pockets and we're all at the table together is we get to experience each other and be
For
present
sure.
with each other. And that I think is also a beautiful gift that's learned that our children don't learn if we don't create the structure for them is how to connect with people. And so it's
Yep.
an opportunity for them to learn that as well. That's
It is, and there's research showing that kids who have family meals And it doesn't have to be every day. Like, I get that that's hard. You've got jobs and kids and activities and everybody's all over the place, but even once a week, if you can sit down for a family meal, it's going to decrease that child's risk of struggling with eating and weight issues and disordered eating and even things like drug abuse and that type of stuff. Like, there is something very powerful and important about that connection.
So true. We have, as a family, we have dinner every night together. We are very blessed that we have the ability to do that because, like you said, with activities, we just, that's kind of a sacred time we just carve out together. And I'll tell you some of the best unexpected conversations, the unexpected, unanticipated knowledge or information that's been shared, or topics that we dive into, or questions that we discuss come up because we are sitting around that table together. Mm.
Even the vibe check with your kids, you can tell if something's off or if their eating is looking weird, you're going to start to pick up on it. And, it gives you a lot of data as a parent.
Mm.
One other thing we've been loving at my house, I got these cards off Amazon and they're like family talking cards. And so
Ooh,
it's just little discussion prompts and kind of fun questions that you can ask each other. And my kids love picking a card and everybody has to go around and give their answer. So, you know, family meals feel challenging from conversation or if everybody's just bickering the whole time at the table. Have found that to be a great tool and it's really fun. It's like creative questions that I would have never thought to ask my family.
yeah. Well, and it's not coming from mom.
Yeah,
That
you're not interrogating them. "How was your day? What did you do at school? What did you eat for lunch?"
all of those. Yeah, it's more like, mom, it's such a deep question. Why are you asking me that? But no, it's just the card. It's not my fault. I love
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna look those up. That's a great idea. Well, let's find out for people who are loving the conversation and really enjoying the kind of ideas that you're presenting. How do they find you and work with you?
Sure, yeah. I have a podcast, so for people who love podcasts, you can come check it out. I have almost 200 episodes at this point, so lots to choose from where you could kind of pick topics that speak to you. It's called Rebuilding Trust with Your Body. And then if anyone wants a copy of that hunger scale I was talking about, I have a guide that also walks you through like the schedule thing and all of that that gives you steps to do it. So you can get that at nondietacademy.com/hunger.
Wonderful. Gosh, I'll put those in the show notes for people. I think those would be, and 200 episodes. Good for you. That's amazing.
It's a
Mm.
labor of love, but it is probably like my favorite thing that I do within my business because I meet people like you. I have guests on my show too. And, we just get to have these conversations and to reach ears all around the world. It's just so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, before we wrap up, I always like to ask my guests if they have one other final bit of advice or an encouragement for someone who's really feeling kind of down in the trenches and heavy with this topic of food. Do you have any encouragement or last thoughts that you'd want to share?
I think what is sort of on my heart as we wrap up is that your worth as a human being is not contingent upon the number on the scale, the size of your pants, the appearance of your body, and it's not your job to shrink yourself or to try to conform your body into some type of society standard. It can be such a challenging way to live your life if you feel like you're at war with your body and with food for decades. A lot of people are, and I also wanna offer that hope that healing is possible, and you absolutely can honor your health and take care of your body without obsessing over the number on the scale and without having to be on a diet for the rest of your life. And you can get to a place where you also feel more comfortable with yourself, even if you never reach that dream weight that you've always had in your mind. So I hope that that offers hope and encouragement for people who struggle because this is a shockingly common struggle. You would be completely shocked the people all around you who are secretly struggling with this inside.
Yes, even people who look like they're right-sized, healthy weight. There's a lot of people who are over-obsessing about their workouts or whatever it might be, and when you see the numbers of the American numbers anyway here in the United States about what is it now? 60+% people are obese.
Part of the problem with that is the number one cause of weight gain and slowed metabolism is dieting. So the thing we're told to do to fix the problem is making the problem worse. And we
Exactly.
need to get off the roller coaster and learn more effective ways to take care of our bodies.
Exactly. And that brings us right back to what you were talking about in the beginning, because when you diet, you're losing muscle mass, which is the one thing you really want to keep.
You
So,
do. Metabolically, blood sugar, health, strength, all the things. Yes.
exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, Katy, you've been just a pleasure and a joy to have on. I love that we have the opportunity to connect, and I love having you on the program. So thank you for being with us.
Oh, this was so much fun. I loved it.
Hey friends, I've got 5 great takeaways for you today. Number 1, dieting often makes things worse, not better. That whole cycle of restriction, weight loss, and then regaining it again can really damage your metabolism because it ends up impacting the muscle that you have on your body. And that leaves people worse off than they were before they began the diet. Muscle matters. And when you repeat the same cycle over and over again, your body learns to shed muscle and fat, but then adds back just fat, which makes sustainable progress feel like it's nearly impossible. So don't diet. Work on building and maintaining muscle as you intuitively eat to fuel your body well. Number 2, the real issue isn't food. It's lost trust and perhaps a host of other deep pain. But those years of dieting and that early childhood conditioning that we all go through, where we learn to use food as a comfort and disconnect from our own body's natural signals of hunger and fullness, well, that has made us all very confused about what our body's actually trying to tell us. What once was an intuitive process as a child becomes confusing and really frustrating. So take some gentle, structured steps to regain that trust. And by doing that, you'll help move yourself toward restoring that trusting relationship between you and your body once again. Number 3, restriction creates, well, obsession. Ironically, the more we tell ourselves we can't have it, the more we want it. And this just fuels our cravings. That mental tug of war keeps food front and center in our thoughts, far more than it was ever supposed to be. But there is peace and there is freedom to be found in this whole process. And that leads me to takeaway number 4. Freedom comes when food is no longer in control, when we control it and it doesn't control us any longer. Because when food is no longer something we're fighting over or obsessing over, it returns to its proper place. Then it's simply something you're using to fuel your body, something you can enjoy with friends and family, and it's just one small part of that important active connection instead of being the main event. This is where we find peace, when we can eat and enjoy and move on without guilt or constant mental chatter. And finally, number 5, your worth has nothing to do with your weight. God has given you the most beautiful gift of this body, a miraculous container that you live in that knows how to heal, how to regenerate itself, how to fix the broken and keep you moving. A healthy life that's full of vitality and joy is one where you are partnering with your body, not fighting against it. A full and happy life is measured by the impact you make, by the deep relationships you cultivate, and the purpose that you live your life out with every single day, not what number you see on your scale. You, my friend, are a gift. Your body is a gift. Love your body and fuel it well. Hey friends, if today's episode really resonated with you, one of these 2 video links that are up here might also be really of interest to you. Thank you so much for stopping by the Sunshine Café today. Until next time, be inspired, be encouraged, and I'll look forward to seeing you back here next time at the Sunshine Café.